Have you ever wondered what the true path to financial freedom is? Many people confuse freedom with security, but today, we're going to talk about how these concepts are quite different and why choosing the right path can completely change your life. As Proverbs 10 verse 22 says, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, without painful toil for it." And that's exactly what we'll discuss today: how to walk the path to financial freedom without being trapped by the fear of taking risks. Robert G. Allen, author of several finance books, once said that life offers two doors, one labeled freedom and the other security. Choosing security, contrary to popular belief, can lead to nothing. But if you choose freedom, you'll have both. This is a brilliant analogy we'll explore in detail. Jim always believed that, in any area, the fundamentals are key. Those who master these principles are more likely to succeed. When talking about financial freedom, he liked to start by explaining the difference between financial freedom and financial security. Many people confuse the two, but they are distinct concepts. He would often quote Proverbs 10 verse 22, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no sorrow with it." To him, this passage represented the idea that true prosperity comes without undue suffering, as long as you follow the right path. He also enjoyed using the metaphor from Robert G. Allen, who said that life offers two doors, one marked freedom and the other security. Choosing the door of security may seem comfortable, but in the end, you might end up with neither. However, choosing freedom, according to Allen, brings both. To Jim, this analogy made perfect sense in his own journey. Jim was a firm believer in the idea that without risk, there's no reward. He used to quote Benjamin Franklin, who said that by seeking security, we lose our independence. Helen Keller, on the other hand, said that security doesn't exist in nature, nor among humans. For Jim, these ideas reflected his own experience. He often asked, "Is your life a daring adventure, or are you letting it become nothing?" He connected this reflection with Matthew 25 verse 29, "For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them." He believed that the fear of failure made the achievement even more valuable. For him, if the risk was removed, so was the reward. It was the overcoming of obstacles that brought satisfaction and fulfillment. And this philosophy, he taught, applied to all aspects of life, especially the pursuit of financial freedom. Jim emphasized that there were foundations for success, and even if you only mastered half of them, your life would improve significantly. He liked to use examples of great sports figures to illustrate his idea. Tiger Woods, at his peak, was number 1 in driving distance but only 7th in accuracy. Steph Curry, the greatest three-point shooter in history, wasn't excellent at everything. Allen Iverson, famous for his ball-handling skills, also had his weaknesses. The main point for Jim was that no one needed to be perfect at everything. It was more important to excel in a few areas than to try to master them all. He repeated this idea several times, reinforcing that success was a combination of various skills, each with its own importance. The first foundation of financial freedom, according to Jim, was the environment. He taught that it was easier to achieve financial freedom in certain environments than in others. For example, he said that, as a child, you don't have control over the environment you grow up in. Similarly, an adult living in a country where wealth accumulation is difficult will face challenges. However, Jim believed that the environment was a contributing factor, not a determining one. To reinforce this, he quoted Philippians 4 verse 13, "I can do all things through him who strengthens me." Even in the United States, he reminded people that some were born into slavery and managed to free themselves, dying as free people. To Jim, this demonstrated that while the environment influences who you become, it doesn't determine your destiny. He encouraged people to recognize the environment they were in and work within it. Whenever possible, he suggested seeking environments more conducive to the desired outcomes. For example, he explained that it would be more challenging to create financial freedom in a state with high taxes than in one without state taxes. The more regulated and taxed the environment, the more difficult it would be to achieve freedom. However, this didn't mean it was impossible, it just meant there was an additional challenge to overcome. Jim was a living example of hard work and persistence. He would tell how, when he had a formal job, his salary was limited to what his employer decided to pay. But even with that limitation, he didn't settle. He decided to use his free time to build a business. During the day, he worked as a garbage collector, waking up at 2:30 a.m. to do an 8 to 10-hour shift. After a brief rest, he went out to sell insurance and investments in the evening. In the beginning, he was terrible at sales, but he believed that owning his own business was the best way to create financial freedom for his family. He always liked to quote Proverbs 14 verse 23, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." Jim wasn't suggesting that people quit their jobs immediately, but rather that they use their free time to gain financial independence. He himself continued working while developing his business skills in his spare time. Over time, his income from the business surpassed his job's salary, allowing him to dedicate himself fully to his venture. He also shared an experience in Las Vegas, where he went to a business event. A colleague asked why he still attended such events since he clearly no longer needed to learn how to make money. Jim replied that he attended these events because the environment helped him grow. Being surrounded by entrepreneurs inspired him and gave him new ideas, something he couldn't find elsewhere. If you're enjoying this content and want more valuable tips on how to reach your financial freedom, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us share this knowledge with more people. Jim also strongly believed in the connection between spiritual and financial reality. He said that energy was the essence of reality and that God is the supreme energy. He would often quote John 4 verse 24, "God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in the spirit and in truth." For him, this meant that the spirit was more real than physical matter because the spirit created the matter, not the other way around. He also believed that the environment affected the energy you absorbed. Every time he picked up a book to read, he wasn't just gaining knowledge but also exposing himself to the energy that the author put into that work. Jim admitted that, when he was younger, he hated reading, but that changed when he started reading the Bible at 16. From then on, he couldn't get into a car without listening to an audiobook or sit down without having a book in hand. Perspective was the second key foundation in Jim's life. He believed that we don't see things as they really are, but as we are. If someone wanted to achieve financial freedom, they needed to change their view of money. Jim would quote 2 Corinthians 4 verse 18, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." For him, this passage illustrated how we are often deceived by a limited view of reality. Jim also made an interesting analogy, asking, "Have you ever seen a one-sided coin? Or a piece of paper with only one side?" He used this image to show that there are always two perspectives in any situation. He believed that one had to be willing to consider the opposing viewpoint and learn from it if necessary. He always referred to the Bible to reinforce this point. Philippians 2 verse 4 says, "Let each of you look not only to his own interests but also to the interests of others." For Jim, this meant that in any discussion, there was always a 50% chance that the other person was right. And he was willing to change if he realized the other side was right. The way someone viewed money, according to Jim, directly influenced their pursuit of financial freedom. He knew that many saw money as something negative, citing 1 Timothy 6 verse 10, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." However, he pointed out that the verse doesn't say money is the problem, but the excessive love of it. On the other hand, he also quoted Proverbs 10 verse 22 to remind that, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth." For Jim, money was just a tool, and he believed it was possible to be rich and still live according to Christian principles. He made it clear that money itself wasn't evil, but what people did with it could be good or bad, depending on their intentions. Before moving forward, if you are truly committed to achieving financial freedom, take advantage of the tools on this video. Take ebook and financial spreadsheets available in the video description. These tools will help you put everything discussed here into practice. Jim was fully convinced that wealth was a blessing. He believed this with every fiber of his being. He asserted that if wealth were something negative, God wouldn't have blessed so many people with it. Deuteronomy 8 verse 18 says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." For Jim, this was clear proof that wealth, in itself, was positive, even though some people used it wrongly. He compared money to a tool, like a hammer. If used correctly, it could be useful, but it could also be dangerous if used improperly. The key was how each person used the resources they had at their disposal. To achieve financial freedom, Jim explained that it was necessary to generate income. He liked to emphasize that income didn't exist in a vacuum, it was the result of something. Income was generated from value, both intrinsic value and perceived value. Jim said that many people hoarded wealth by increasing the perceived value of something without increasing its intrinsic value. However, that wasn't sustainable. For him, it was crucial to balance both types of value to create true wealth. He reinforced that income could come from different sources: salaries, owning businesses, or investments. None of these sources were necessarily better than the other, but he encouraged people to look beyond just salaries. For him, owning a business provided more freedom than solely relying on a job. Jim always encouraged entrepreneurship as a path to financial freedom. He would tell stories about young entrepreneurs he met, such as a 22-year-old who built a successful YouTube channel and digital marketing agency. This young man didn't do it through salaries but by starting his own business. Jim made it clear that he wasn't suggesting people quit their jobs to start a business recklessly. He himself worked formal jobs while developing his own business on the side. When his business income matched or surpassed his job salary, he was finally able to make the full transition. He always stressed that entrepreneurship wasn't easy and required sacrifice, but the reward was great for those who persisted. He also encouraged people to involve their families in their businesses, making the journey more collaborative and fulfilling. Jim believed that character and self-control were crucial components of financial freedom. He said that to achieve freedom, it was essential to learn to control your emotions and make rational financial decisions. He liked to use the phrase, "Make sure your expenses don't exceed your income, so that your maintenance doesn't become your downfall." He knew that many times people made financial decisions based on momentary desires instead of thinking long-term. For him, this was a mistake. He gave the example of his own life, where he often did things he didn't like, such as working out, to achieve something he loved, being in shape. The same philosophy applied to money. He encouraged people to make temporary sacrifices so they could enjoy lasting rewards. Another central point in Jim's philosophy was focus. He believed that many people failed financially because they allowed themselves to be distracted by things that didn't matter. He would quote Philippians 3 verses 13 to 14, "Forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal." For him, this passage captured the essence of what was necessary to achieve financial freedom: absolute focus on the goals. He acknowledged that focus often required temporary imbalance in other areas of life, but he saw this as a necessary phase. In the beginning, he explained, the seasons of focus would be very intense, but over time, balance would return as financial freedom was achieved. So, as we wrap up, I want you to take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered today. The journey to financial freedom, as we learned through Jim's story, is about more than just making money. It's about mastering key principles like risk-taking, persistence, and having the right perspective on both money and life. Remember, it's not about being perfect in every area, but about focusing on what truly matters and creating value. Jim's life showed us that with faith, hard work, and the right mindset, you can achieve not only financial freedom but a balanced and fulfilling life. If you're serious about taking control of your finances and walking the path to freedom like Jim did, make sure to grab our financial spreadsheets and ebook. These tools are designed to help you apply the principles we discussed today. The link is in the description, and you can also find it pinned in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more tips and stories to help you on your financial journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.